3. 3 is a good number. I usually prefer even numbers, but for 3, I make an exception. So what's so special about 3? Well, 1 is just an anomaly. 2 is a coincidence. But 3 makes a pattern, and patterns are predictable. You have some level of control over patterns, and I need that sense of control. I have this routine where I have to touch every book on my bookcase in a certain manner. So please just bear with me, because this might take a while. Okay, that takes care of that bookcase. On to the next one. Okay, what's that nonsense out the way? We can get on to my portrait. The first thing I like to do is work out the composition. And for this piece, the composition is fairly simple. A mirror, a sink, and the main subject's reflection. This is going to be a point of view piece. My hope is that the viewer, while admiring this piece, gets a sense of what it is to suffer from a certain compulsion or a certain thought. Uninvited thoughts that just creep into your mind and outstay their welcome. You can't seem to get rid of them. I know what it is to have these thoughts. Such terrible thoughts. With the stencil in place, I can start adding the first layers of the portrait. The first layers always look like crap, and this is where a lot of amateur pastel artists get discouraged. In their heads, they can't see the final product. But you have to keep on pushing through and have faith. Once you start adding the highlights and the darker tones, the form will begin to show. This isn't until about layers 5 or 6 for me. Then I bust out the pastel pencils and I start adding details. Here I'm using the fine tip of the pencil to refine the areas around the eyes, the nose, and underneath the chin. Adding the highlights to both the head and shoulders to make sure the subject jumps off the canvas. And again, the number 3. It's a reoccurring theme for me. I see numbers everywhere now. On the floor, on the wall, on my hands, inside my mind. They're omnipresent, taunting me. Imagine going through life trying to avoid an enemy you can't see. And because you can't see it, it might as well be everywhere. So it's a constant battle. And you should feel some type of relief that you do not have these thoughts, because they make you question your sanity. They make you think you're going crazy. And there's not much you can do to fight them. Your best hope is to contain them. So you develop a mental ritual. And you perform this ritual every time these thoughts come into your mind. Mine involves creating a mental image of myself, a knife, and self-decapitation. In my head, I repeat this image over and over, again and again, until I have this feeling like I have successfully separated my mind from my body. That way my body can continue its function, while my mind finds itself occupied with the number 3. And if you find this hard to understand, I don't blame you, because I don't understand it either. At this point, I realize that the white sink in the background changes how the colors of the hands are perceived. So I have to go back in and punch them up with the lighter tones. Placing certain colors next to each other somehow changes the manner in which we discern them. It's something that artists are always conscious of. Studying color theory will help you become a better artist. It'll help you make the right choices when putting together your palette. Do you know what palette you should use to render human flesh? The palette should include unconventional colors, like blues, greens, and purples, if you want to achieve that realistic look. I intentionally left these colors out of the face and torso area, because the reflection does not represent reality. Rather, it represents how reality is interpreted. We can only ever experience reality through our senses, and sometimes our senses misfire. And sometimes they misperceive. My apologies. I just had to check on something real quick. Anyways, do you want to know something else about human flesh? Do you want to know how it tastes? 'Cause I know how it tastes.
Dermatophagia is a compulsive disorder of gnawing, biting, or eating one's own skin.
Do you know what that's like? To have a compulsion? To chew on yourself? Till the skin rips? Till the blood drips? And you should be concerned for my health, 'cause I'm eating myself. And here I go again, having these bad thoughts. Can't seem to separate my is from my oughts. Feeling like they surrounded me, and I'm feeling like I'm trapped. Feeling like I'm about to snap. Feeling like they're crawling all over my chest, and it got me ripping at my flesh. These thoughts I keep locked up in my cell, my own private hell. I can't see them, then I see them. Won't shake your hands because you might be them. And then I start to panic and I'm manic. I'm self-diagnosed as schizophrenic.
Dermatophagia is a compulsive disorder of gnawing, biting, or eating one's own skin.
I hope by now I've dispelled any misconceptions you might have. There's nothing satisfying about performing these rituals. It comes with no sense of relief or a conclusion. No, it's an itch that you cannot scratch. They never go away. And if it's not one compulsion, it's the next. You ever have that feeling like you're forgetting something? Yeah. Well, imagine that anxiety, just 10 times worse, and accompany it with this sense of impending doom. Then you might know what it's like. Then you might know what these compulsions do to your well-being. Do you know how many times I've checked the oven to make sure it's off? Countless. But yet here I am checking. You know, just in case it somehow miraculously turned itself on in the last 5 minutes. And it gets old real fast. And I wish these thoughts would just go away, but they won't. I wish I knew how to stop, but I can't. It's torture of your mind. It's poison. At this point, I'm approaching the last steps of the painting, and the choices I make at this stage tend to be the hardest. I always want to add more details. I'm never satisfied with certain aspects. I'm always looking to make changes. But then I realize that I can keep working on it, and it won't necessarily be better. It'll just be different. At some point, I have to be ready to walk away. I have to learn how to stop. You have to learn to accept that there is an inherent risk to your daily routine, and that directing certain patterns might give you a sense of control. But you know damn well that this sense of control comes at the expense of rational thought. Things don't have to be this way. Whenever you're ready, you can take control. Whenever you get that next urge, become self-aware, take a look at yourself, and say no. It's not going to be easy. But what's the alternative? Counting your life away by threes? This is no way to go through life, and you know it. You either want to behave rationally, or you don't. You can either choose to get better, or you can choose to eat yourself. That choice is yours. And you do have a choice. Your compulsion does not outweigh your volition. What you are cannot determine who you are. You gotta learn when to stop and when to walk away.